Ladies and gentlemen, Gus Bickford, chairperson of the Democratic Party in Massachusetts.
Great, thank you.
Are you mic'd? So let me just preface this by saying that quite a few months ago, people demanded and asked to have Bob come here, right? Sorry, Gus. And and there's a lot going on, and so it took us a little while to finally get him here. And despite the fact that he's not feeling well, he dragged himself all the way over here to the South Coast, and we appreciate that. But so I just want you to know that this was we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep bringing. You tell us who you want. We're going to keep bringing people here, and so let's pay attention and make sure that you have your questions ready to go when he's done. Okay?
Yeah, and to be clear, when I found out, we tried to make it work, and we just messed up in the last month with the confusion. So look forward to being here. I've traveled a lot of the state. I'm from Westford, which is up by Lowell. Really excited to be chair, beginning my second year on my 14th month. A lot of things have changed since I've taken over. I just want to recognize Bob Massey for really putting out a nice foundation for much of what we stand for as Democrats. So I don't want to go over that. What I will say is that what we have learned in this last year is we lead with our values. And I think if we go back just a week ago to Joe Kennedy and Fall River, we choose both, okay? We have a president who's decided to divide us, okay? We in the Democratic Party have always tried to figure out the resolution that is fair, equitable, and makes this country better for everyone. And what we have done in this last year is lead by that. For those people that say, well, what do you stand for? You're always, and so I'm just, basically saying what I have heard. You're always out there protesting, working against. And frankly, that's not the case. Because if you take healthcare as the leading example, that's not what we were doing. We were actually out there talking about what worked and putting a voice and a face and a family behind what had been done. And it worked. And it moved the country. And we need to continue to do that. We need to continue to do that with the environment. We need to continue to do that with civil rights. We need to continue to do with that education, with transportation. And we need to take those issues so they're not just DC issues, and I know some of them want me just to talk about national issues. But we need to understand that they come back right here to the state. And one of the great things that's happened in the last 8 days is the campaign has started. And the other side is feeling it. And so what I have handed out, and some of you have been able to receive, and there will be more if you don't have them, is we have begun to focus on the issues of why we need a Democrat in the corner office. Because we need change. We need someone who's going to stand up for us. Okay, we need someone who's not going to just be disappointed when the president says something that's outrageous or takes the rights away for someone or basically lies on a daily basis. We need someone who's going to be outraged and who can do something about it. And as Charlie Baker said, the governor is just kind of trying to wave and get through this. And I see this as a glass half full, optimistic person. Here is the reality of what's going to happen in the next year in the state. The governor right now is in a precipice where he is referred to on a daily basis as the most popular governor in the country. But that's just because he's been against Trump. I don't feel he's been against Trump. I just hit the mic, so I apologize. I don't feel he's been against Trump. It's one of those situations where he says he has, but he hasn't made any statements about it. He is going to continue to be positioned to have to say, we need new leadership in the House and we need new leadership in the Senate. And his problem with that is that's going to erode his base. In Massachusetts, in a presidential election year, on average, 3.2 million people vote. The Democrat, on average, wins by 800,000 votes. In a gubernatorial year, we either win or lose by 80,000 votes. That's the difference. So if he depresses his base by 25 or 40,000 votes, and we've got Elizabeth Warren at the top of the ticket talking about consumer affairs division that's just been gutted, talking about reforming Wall Street so our money works for us. We're going to have a turnout for a woman leader that's going to take the base that we saw the day after the inauguration last year on Boston Common, in and around every common in this country. We're going to see those people turn out in numbers they haven't turned out before. And we as a party, working as a coordinated campaign, are going to start working towards that and have started working towards that since last summer, and we're going to continue to move that forward. So if we increase that turnout by 125K than average or 150K, that change alone is going to be what we need so Charlie Baker loses by 20,000. So that's the glass half full. That's what I want to bring to you today, that I have optimism. I've got a tremendous amount of optimism about what we are doing and leading forward. We have been given an opportunity because this is a time with Elizabeth at the top of the ticket that we can start a campaign now. We didn't have that in 2014. So we've got Elizabeth, she can campaign, we can build out, we can put people on the ground, and we can work towards the values and presenting those values door to door to those people that don't think their vote makes a difference. And that's really what it is when we get to a gubernatorial election. They think that in a presidential election, my vote make a difference, but they don't see the state issues the same way. And they actually live, when you look at the numbers, they live with a lot of people who do vote in the gubernatorial election. So we're going to be out, we're going to be trying to touch those people 4 times between now and Labor Day. And we're going to be able to give them a reason for them in their neighborhood, by people like you, by their neighbors, a reason for them to vote and why it's going to make a difference. And then that will turn out with, especially because we now have early vote, and we're able to give them, okay, have you made a plan to vote? And if they haven't, we're going to make them make a plan to vote. And then when we know what their plan to vote is, we're going to check up on them and make sure that they've actually gotten out and voted. Because we lead with our values. We lead with what matters. And it's not easy, but it's a door-to-door conversation. That's what happened in Alabama. That's what happened in Virginia. Bob went through it before, but that's the type of campaigning that we do, and we do well, and we know that we need to do it. The message today has changed dramatically in the last 10 to 12 years. You no longer get the message the way you used to. You get it from your friends. The majority of us wake up and we see what someone sent us, whether it be by a chain email, a Facebook post, a Twitter feed, an Instagram. We see what someone sent us. We need to be part of that. We need to be part of that conversation and applying what we believe into those. So by doing this, by looking at these 5 points that we've shared today, and we're going to continue to share if you sign up for our Action Network, we'll be sending you new reasons, new workbooks, new points that will make it different for Democrats up and down the ticket. We're starting with Charlie because he's the one that we got to have drop the quickest. But up and down the ticket, so you have a reason to talk to people about what's going to make a difference. Now, I want this to be a conversation, so I'm going to cut this short because honestly, Bob did an incredible job. And I will say the 3 candidates have made my job so much easier. It's so nice to have people out there talking about what makes this difference and why the Democratic Party really stands for people like us and really works for people like us. So as I lead, as I move forward, one of the things that I said to the members that elected me, and I don't see Lisa, but to Lisa is, as chair, what I'm trying to do is put the tools in place to make you better, to make you a better person, to turn out people to work on your neighbors, to work in your neighborhoods, to work in your districts, because that's how we win. We win when we all work together. We win as a big tent. We win when we recognize it's not the $5 million ad campaign, okay? It's the door-to-door, elbow grease, foot on the ground, smile at the door, recognizing that actually that person really knows what they're talking about, okay? They're from my city, they're from my town, they know somebody I know. It makes a difference to us. And that's what's going to make the difference. So we're continuing to push that out, and I can expand further on the programs we put in place. So I'd just like to open it up for questions, and if you want me to expand on other things, please do, because I want this to be a conversation as we move forward. So questions? Right here. Bill Cantor from Mattapoisett.
Bill Cantor from Mattapoisett.
Yes.
Question. I was not a delegate to the convention last time around.
June, yeah.
Probably will be. Chair for it this time. Is the iPad online voting system going to work this year?
Yeah, so here is how we are doing the electronic voting. One of the things that we pride and one of the great things that we do in Massachusetts is we have these caucuses. And people are out there, and it's, we're going to have more than 15,000 people, 15 to 20,000 people meet in the next 5 weeks. Then we get together, and people actually like to get up and have a public vote. So we're still going to have the public vote, but while the public vote is being taken, those people that are actually, when you stand up and you say who you're voting for, it's going to be, your vote is going to be tallied as an electronic vote at that point. So as soon as the public vote is done, the person that's holding the iPad and the person that's holding the paper ballot, and the paper ballot will still be the official ballot, they're just going to look at their tally at the bottom. If they both match, they're just going to click done, and your Senate district will done. Basically, that's going to save us 30 minutes for each vote. And depending on where we are, that's where we are. But so it will be an electronic vote, but there's been a lot of consternation when we talked about, oh, we're moving to electronic voting. Oh, you mean you're taking away the public ballot? No, it's still a public ballot. Everyone will have to stand up and say who they support, but we won't have the backroom counting that we used to have to wait a significant amount of time for. Great, right here.
We're in the second year of biennium, which means that important bills, some of which Bob Massey mentioned and others have been working on, need to get done. On the other hand, they're not getting pulled through the legislature by our do-nothing governor. What is the strategy to get some of these important things through the legislature, like criminal justice reform, and B, make it look like these are Democrats presenting democratic values, not being led by the nose by a governor who doesn't lead very much. Deval Patrick was a Democrat, is a Democrat, and wasn't always successful in getting the legislature to work effectively, and quite frankly, that is one of the reasons that Democrats over the years, I think, have had some difficulty electing governors in this state.
It's a perceived difference. Quite frankly, I think that it comes back to all of us, and I see, I see some movement. And I frankly haven't talked about the Raise Up agenda and what that's going to do for us next fall. I mean, those are the things that we do well. By getting people behind all of the issues, we make a difference. I think that one of the things that I know has made a difference, and one of the things that many of the legislators will tell you when they're back in the district is, the lead on the budget has actually been the House. You look at the budget that we see for the last 3 years that the governor has presented, the House budget that then comes out very rarely looks like it. And so when you look at where we do and what we do and lead with priorities, the fight has been the 9C cuts, because that's his way of getting back. And we've seen with his, basically he has presented to us what does and doesn't make a difference. Cutting the opioid funding by $90,000, taking out support staff from inside schools. Those are the things that make a difference that we need to be supporting, and in 9C cuts he took away. So I think that our legislature has been very responsible in doing a good job of providing a balanced budget and moving us forward. But we are a very democratic state. So the difference that we have in legislation are those pockets, which are, we've got Bristol County. As I said, I live in Merrimack Valley, outside 495. You got the big Boston chunk. You got Western Mass. You got the Cape. You got Cape Ann. So those people get behind and focus on what they need to get done. I think that we will see some action. I think both the Speaker and the new Senate President have said what they'd like to see move forward. And I hope that within 3 to 4 weeks, that has been moved, because we desperately need action. I continue to hear from legislatures we're going to have action, because that's what they need to do to get reelected. But one of the things that we do have is we've got a legislature that really spends a lot of time on the ground. And one of the things that we point out here, our elected officials have had more than 42 town halls across the state. and I'm not even talking about the state rep levels. Charlie Baker has yet to hold one. One. He hasn't held one town hall, and he can't. He can't hold one because he can't answer the questions that you're going to put forward to him, because he can't defend the president. And so that's the type of representation that we got to continue to fight for. And so if you're not seeing your elected representatives, tell them they need to come to your ward and town committee meetings.
Hi, Jim Griffith from Dartmouth. I'd like to modify one of the points that you described to a reason to vote Democratic. I have asked Congressman Keating in a public forum. I've written to his office. I have asked him face to face. I have asked both of our U.S. senators. I have asked mass Dems. I've made public broadcast presentations, and I'm about to ask Bob Massey. My concern is my look at the national votes by state, by county, we keep sliding. The Democrats keep sliding. We're losing ground, and we shouldn't be. The things that are happening in our country should favor us, but we are not making ground with them. So my observation is, in what remains of the 21st century, there are going to be dramatic changes in the world of work. Dramatic. Truck drivers, mall workers, things that are going to happen to our workforce that are dependent on changing economics, technology. Forget China and Russia, forget that. We're going to have dramatic. So I have asked, in what way are the Democrats thinking about the world of work in the remainder of the 21st century? And I have said to some people that I've asked this question to, I don't care if you lie to me.
No, I got an answer for you.
Tell me.
I'm not going to lie to you, because Bob was already there, and there are different people that take different angles. But here's the simple answer. Let's change the way we consume energy. Let's change the way we consume energy. If we change the way we consume energy, there will be a generation's worth of jobs. Because we need to then repower. We need to then bury lines. We need to then put charging places on every house and every street corner. We need to change the way we consume energy so that we're not burning, we don't have global warming. Okay, there are many other answers, but that's a pretty simple one. And you see it led many different times. But let me also address something else that you brought up, because I was part of both ends of this. One of the things that we did not do well in 2008 and 2010 and 2012 is we got away from the grassroots, okay? I was part of the Howard Dean team at the DNC that started the 50-state strategy. I actually wrote the first document that was the 50-state strategy. It had 47 different types of iterations. I was part of it all along. But that document ended up getting passed, and we ended up funding all 50 states. And I was recently, just this past week, interviewed by the Washington Examiner trying to, compare the two, because I was part of the two. It was just as clunky as what we've been going through for the last year. But what ended up happening when the president took over, and he had the right idea, but he started OFA, okay, which took away the second floor. And so I'm getting real technical here, but it took away the second floor at the DNC. It took 87 staffers, and it moved it to just passing his legislation. Those 87 people were focused on the politics of the state and the local elections, what we needed to do to win at gubernatorial, at county, at school board races. And we lost that. And we didn't see that until we got too far behind it. So the new leadership at the DNC, between Tom Perez and Keith Ellison, have brought back the 57 state and territory strategy, of which there has been more funding sent back to the state parties this past year than in the history. They increased the levels of a base rate by $2,500 a month, but then They've increased it by 7.5 million, which they've committed to over the next year. It's not out yet, but it's beginning to go out the door. Those are the changes we need to make, because one of the things that so for those that don't know, I was the executive director in the 90s. I haven't grown up, still haven't figured out what I want to do, but I love what I do. So the fact of the matter is, we have always had more people than they do. They have always had more money. So we've got to understand how to run our campaigns with more passionate people talking about what makes a difference for them. And in this near future, with automation, with people, so I'm 55, with people turning 54, 55, seeing their jobs being taken away, what are they going to do? Well, let's not just like create jobs, like, okay, we got to find 12 jobs. Let's actually think of something that's going to save the world, but also provide a new industry. Change the way we consume energy. Okay? He talked about transportation, and you guys have the commute just as bad as I do, but I cannot get on a commuter rail after 8:15 in the morning. I mean, I could get on it if someone dropped me off at the station, but every single parking lot, again, I live outside 495, is full. So if I've got a kid in school and I got a parent-teacher meeting, I'm driving in and paying $37. We can't get one on that all. Exactly, you can't get, well, so, you know, my average commute is 3 hours a day. So hour and a half in, hour and a half out. You see those, we haven't done this picture in Massachusetts, and we need to do this picture of that 3 blocks in Seattle where they've got all the cars filling up the 3 blocks. And then they have it with 5 buses. And then they've got 1 commuter rail train. You know, if we make, people would like to take commuter rail. They'd like to take the subway. But at 5:15 at Park Street, you're watching the red line go by, you know, three cars in a row because you can't get on. So anyways, let's just change the way we do it.
If I could just follow up
Real
with that
quickly, yeah, go ahead.
Very quickly. One, I find it odd that a party, my party that I love, and I have worked very, very hard for my whole life, couldn't figure out how to give me an answer to my question, which I've been asking for a year and a half, until you just did a part of an answer. That's number one. Number two, that same party seemingly has enough time, this is what I hear out in the tom-toms in Dartmouth, that same party can manage to ask me for money 10 times a day. Every freaking day. Every day. What do you think the people out in the troops are going to say? Money for what?
Push back. And one of the reasons why I say that is because the email is similar to the robocall. Okay? The robocall is gone. Okay? It's not effective. I mean, the really bad people use it, but you don't use it in politics anymore. Okay? Email is going the same way unless people shape up because it's too easy. So just let them know. And by the way, some of the best people, so we had a Democratic Campaign Institute 2 Saturdays ago, and Lauren Miller, who does Elizabeth Warren stuff, was there. And she's, 1, a gem and entertaining, but 2, brilliant. And she's like, I do this. I want you to tell those people, either send me less or unsubscribe me. Because people tell me they like seeing my stuff. So let those people know that are driving you nuts that it's not worth it, because they need a signal.
What is your name, sir?
Jim Griffith.
So, Jim, I completely agree with you, and I have been talking about this at length. The president of MIT, 6 weeks ago, wrote that these changes, destroying jobs, are accelerating, and we have to address them. So, without taking up more time, I just want to point out that driverless cars are already here. We could lose 3.5 million truck drivers and all the people who support them. And since I follow business literature, I just want to tell you that all of the analyst calls where CEOs are talking about how they're going to make money, almost all of them by getting rid of workers. And that means cash register operators and all those things that require a high school job or so forth. They're chortling about it. So there is an element here about corporate power, and that is the definition of capitalism that relentlessly eliminates jobs in order to benefit people who have an extraordinary amount of money already. So that's an element of this. If we're going to look at the structure of the economy, we have to look at that we created a machine that thinks it's a good idea to blow people out of work. And that's what we need to come back at. And I think that actually Massachusetts is in an excellent position to tee us up for a forward participation in the economy. We have to recognize that there's a problem there. So we can talk more, but I just want to say I have been thinking about that for some time.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do it right here. Kevin.
Two questions. One of which is, Bob talked about Franklin Roosevelt. And I remember that State of the Union, and Franklin Roosevelt said, necessitous men are not free men. But the New Deal coalition was built on the idea out of the depths of the Depression, because you had that contradiction. Capital is trying to maximize profits by maximizing productivity, minimizing, the cost of the labor force, including the number of people employed, and yet maximizing production. But you can't sell anything unless there's someone on the other side to buy it. And it leads to the contradiction that you'd have these crises, they lay off people because they can't sell it, they produce too much and pay too little, and then it spirals downward. And then Franklin Roosevelt said, no, we're going to have unions. We're going to have people a stake in the productivity. When productivity goes up, we're going to have unemployment and Social Security, that when things stop spiraling downward, we're going to push buying power up so people are not in fear and they can they can sustain an economy that works for all. And that kind of fell apart in the 70s. Racial strife, Vietnam, and a host of it, and then a neoliberal model that, squeeze wage, 5% increase in wages, 80% increase in productivity, 5% increase in productivity. How can you sell then? Mortgage debt, student debt, like Elizabeth Warren, half the bankruptcies because of health care costs. And so there's the contradiction. We had the financial crisis, and it blew apart the Clinton-Bush consensus. You have Bernie saying one thing, Trump lying but promises, and what they had is they were talking about what resonates with people, like the Raise Up does. If we're going to expand the workforce, it's not going to be policy wonks and Democratic activists. It's going to be the people we can talk to where they feel it. And $15 an hour, oh my God, I could get $15 an hour. I'm working in the nursing home, taking care of these elderly, and that'd be a several dollar increase. Or, or taking care of a family member or losing a job. And those kind of things resonate in a very powerful way. And it's going to be a national election. And who knows the context we'll be in. A financial crisis, hopefully not war, but it's a whole new game. And if the Democrats are bold, not unlike Bob Massey was articulating, I think we've got a good chance to not only do the right thing for Massachusetts, but be a beacon for the rest of the country.
I agree, and
that's
not a question. That's a great
here's
statement.
The question.
So I want to clap.
The Unity Reform Commission. What's the situation? They try to grapple with a new, more dynamic, open Democratic Party. It's going to go to the Rules Committee, the DNC, where we have some of the best people on that. The chair and so forth. And of course, the DNC is in a difficult position because they might even undermine some of their own powers. In order to open things up. So
for those that don't, it's a long report. It's out there. It's public. From my take, so I just came back from a chairs meeting, national chairs meeting. From my take, I think that the majority of it will go through as written. Okay, and for those a real quick one that a lot of people thought would be the stumbling block. Okay, I'm a DNC member. I was a DNC member before I was chair. I did not run to be a DNC member to be an automatic delegate, okay? That wasn't my goal. I frankly ran because, for those that don't know, I'm a database specialist, and I did data, throughout the 90s, and basically did the Florida recount, rebuilt the voter file, was really disheartened when I went down there in 2000 to see what they had been working with before, spent close to 5 days, no sleep, with 3 computers going, rebuilding the voter file. So I became an evangelist saying we need to have national voter file. I was put on a blacklist at the DNC in 2001, 2002 because I was not saying nice things. So I ran for the DNC in 2002 and got elected. That's why I'm a DNC member. I think when you look at the people that we have in Massachusetts and many people across the country, they're the same type of passionate people. We've got Elaine Kmark, who's one of the national spokespeople, okay, when it comes to what is effective at grassroots level. We got Jim Roosevelt, national treasure when it comes to the rules and everything else. They're going to take away those people like me, are right, okay, to basically vote the way that we had wanted to in the past. I don't have an issue with that. I frankly wrote a letter in January of 2018. I signed a letter, 2016, that said, if it comes down to that the automatic delegates are changing what the popular vote wants, I'm going to vote what the popular vote wants. And by the way, it never even got close to that, so let's not get into that debate. But there was a whole bunch of us as DNC members who signed that letter said we do it. So that's going to happen. So basically, the elected officials, the Congress people, they'll be able to vote their way. Those people that are DNC members for another reason are basically going to, if they're elected by their congressional district, do what their congressional district want. I'm elected by the state, do what my state wants. So, but
Partially a question, partially a statement.
Sure.
And it kind of like reflects a little bit what Jim was saying about all the donations we keep getting.
Yeah.
The requests for donations. And to me, what makes most sense is for the Democratic Party to talk about bread and butter issues that mean everything to people.
Right.
And connecting them up. For instance, the Trump tax break to the rich. And talk about how, and connect, and this is being done to some extent, but this is how I think we're going to make the people understand, and how that is going to lead to cuts in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, because they want to balance their damn budget, and we just gave about $1 trillion and a half dollars to the aid to the 1%, so that they could have their extra money,
Right.
And it's going to end up coming back on us.
Absolutely.
The military, ridiculous military spending, jobs, rebuilding the infrastructure, putting people to work, rebuilding, we talk about jobs, rebuilding the infrastructure, hammering away at that and saying, look, we need to do that, and not Trump's bullshit plan, which I heard a little bit about, but not a whole lot. Healthcare, I mean, getting people to understand how important healthcare is, and what this Republican Party is trying to take away.
Right.
I mean, we need Medicare for all,
Right.
and that's what we should be standing for.
Right.
Prison reform. We had a little discussion about that before. Ending discrimination against minorities and women, like was spoken so eloquently about by Christine back there earlier. And immigrants.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to connect all of these things up. Education, I think I mentioned earlier, education, not just talking about making college education more affordable, but what about building into the trades and making sure we're building up the trades? I mean, I was reading an article the other day about in Boston where one plumber got 400 calls in one day because they needed a plumber. Yeah. It's insane that we have so much of a need for people who could be doing this work who aren't employed. We need to be training these people, electricians, plumbers, carpenters. And make sure and while we're doing that, by the way, make sure we're getting minorities and women and other people involved in that so we can get it done.
So bottle this up. Bottle this up. That's why he's the chair. And take him door to door.
Well, if you want to hear some of this,
Yeah.
I responded to I have a little different take from what Joe Kennedy said than you did.
Sure.
And believe me, not that I disagree with what he said, but I think we're still missing the message.
Okay.
We need to be talking about the issues that working people need to hear.
Right.
And unless we do that, we're going to lose because we got a blabbermouth in the president presidency who is going to tell people anything they want to get them to go along.
Right.
We need to connect those dots. And until we do, we're not going to win.
Yeah.
And all of the goddamn money we give, and I give plenty, believe me, I gave several $1,000s out last year, which I'm paying for now because I probably get 20 or 30 requests for money every day on the internet. But this needs to change.
Yeah.
And unless we change it, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be treading on water.
Right.
The other thing I want to just one quick mention is I know that the Secretary of State Galvin is talking about getting same-day voter registration. Right. Frankly, I think we got to go a step further. Automatic voter registration. You turn 18, you're registered to vote. Yeah. Because we know how hard it is to go out there and register people individually.
Right.
Okay? And why put another impediment by saying, okay, well, you're going to go over there for 10 minutes and register to vote and then go, automatic voter registration, it's done. Right. No problem. Right. So anyway, I just wanted to, let you know. Yeah. But the point I wanted to make is I commented on Congressman 2nd District, what's his name? Jim
McGovern.
Jim McGovern, the guy we got elected. I commented on his Facebook page when they were talking about this, and I said, listen, I like what he said, but he's got to say more. And if the Democratic Party doesn't say more and start connecting the dots with working people in this country and minorities in this country, we're not going to win. So we need to do that.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I do want to say, but real quickly, because some of the things that we are doing, and I hope the chair's got them, but those nomination papers you got from the Democratic Party, right?
Right.
So one of the things we are doing is we have begun already by, and the other chairs, did you guys get packets from the Democratic Party? Yeah, so we are trying to help our uncontested candidates by forwarding out their signatures, and we're going to continue doing those types of things, figuring out what we can do that because of efficiencies of scale, we'll all be better and working together. So we're just going to continue to push that out. We're going to put out messages like this. You're going to hear more and more, but you are a leader. I mean, everyone in this room is a leader in the Democratic Party, needs to speak that way, because one of the things I think that, because I do hear our elected officials who understand that jobs is what we need to be speaking about, which is where some of those ideas come from. But the problem, I think, as we all witnessed when we listened to 1 hour and 18 minutes of the president, Joe Kennedy only had something like 22.
Yeah.
So it's awful tough to pinhole and respond with 22 minutes to the rest. But
Chairman, can I just ask one quick question? What do you do? We've got a town, Marion, that has no caucus.
let's call it.
There are people who want to go to the convention.
Done. So if you get, okay, I'm really glad. We'll get real wonky here. Starting today, we are in the window where this is one of the great things that the chair of the party can do. I can call the caucus. So I just need to know 3 people in Marion that want it called that are Democrats, and I will call the caucus.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so that works.
Show of hands, who's a union person here? Okay, I'm union also, SAG-AFTRA. The corporations just got a 15% tax break. We need to now ask for, we want, across the board, 15% pay raises. That's what the money was pinpointed for. Let's demand it. If we all of our unions unite and demand this in Massachusetts, it'll be, why not?
$1.50 a week.
Ryan
says that's wrong.
I worked in Washington, D.C. for Senator John Kerry and Congressman Barney Frank. So I completely understand where you're coming from. And the one thing that I would like to see more of, and I think the Democrats have done a very poor job for as long as I can remember, probably since Ronald Reagan, that's when I went to D.C., is radio. I really think, especially places like New Bedford, we really don't hear the Democratic voice on the radio. And there's still a lot of people that listen to the radio and call in. And I really want to see that more with our party. Everything has to be at the... Right, I mean, exactly. And I think that's why a lot of radio is dying, a lot of newspapers are dying because of that. And I would like to see more of that. The party really has to do a better job, not only engaging people, but informing them. Because the Republicans have done a very, very good job of that at the local level. It's not just at the state or at the federal level. It has to begin at the local level. So one of the reasons why I'm here is also to listen to everyone and also be more engaged and more involved with the party. So it's great to hear what's going on. And I'm glad to see all these people here because it's really nice to see. I would love to see more younger faces, not to say that there's anything wrong with the older face, but I think we really need to do a better job in getting those young kids involved. And I mean the 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds who believe that there's no future for them. So I thank you very much for being here, and I'm really impressed by Mr. Massey, who's here. It's nice to hear his ideas, and so I congratulate him, and I'm definitely looking at you. So you may have my vote. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for putting this on, Lisa. I think it's great.
I was trained as a doctoral level agricultural scientist, and I'm noticing the effects of climate change happening on crop production, and I'm very concerned about what's going on. Lost my job a few weeks ago because, in a sense, you could say because of the impact of climate change. Prolonged drought and record high temperatures the year before stressed out the plants to the point where the crops this year really could not support a crop. I was very surprised when I found out that Cobra was going to cost my family $2,000 a month. How is someone supposed to be able to afford that on unemployment? Fortunately, my family can switch on to my wife's insurance plan, but what about the people that cannot afford that? How does somebody pay for $2,000 a month insurance on unemployment? We really have to do something about the health insurance situation.
Okay,
Great.
thank you very much, Gus.
Thank you.
For coming.
Thank you very much.
Listening.
Porter.
Uh,